So the last artist in our post-impressionist piece is Vincent van Gogh. Unlike these previous French artists, and you've seen that Impressionism was also mostly a French thing, this painter is born in Holland. By far the most popular of the three, despite the fact that basically nobody knew his art while he was alive. He was influenced by Malay. We remember that realistic painting, The Gleaners, from our last artistic study. According to Gogh Bro, he longed for an unsophisticated art, which would not only appeal to rich connoisseurs, but give joy and consolation to every human being, which is a cool cross-section that Van Gogh, or I suppose his name is actually supposed to be pronounced Van Gogh, actually would try to achieve. He wanted art that was for everybody, that it could be enjoyed at this high level and at this low level as well, which is, of course, what's true, right? Probably, remember your dorm room, but probably somewhere on your hall, somebody has a Van Gogh, right? Has Starry Night or some of the other ones that you readily recognize. His style is so immediately clear. You see something and you could say that's Van Gogh, which is a cool thing that these artists are doing. They're creating their own representative aesthetics. It's no longer, hey, this is what Baroque painting looks like. This is a specifically crafted individual artistic expression that is beginning to be in vogue during this time period. Sad life for Van Gogh. Popular story of him struggling with madness and cutting off his ear, right? Intense depression throughout his life, institutionalized, ultimately commits suicide at the age of 37, which is very young. The same age that Raphael was when he died. The paintings on which his fame rests were all painted during 3 years, which were interrupted by crises and despair. 3 years to create all the paintings that we know him by. Describing his own painting, Van Gogh said, "The emotions are sometimes so strong that one works without being aware of working. So strong that one works without being aware of working. And the strokes come with a sequence and a coherence like words in a speech or a letter," which again is amazing. This kind of improvisational fury that Van Gogh was able to create in his paintings, where he felt that painting was like speaking or was like writing, that he would have these bursts of inspiration and he'd be able to translate that into a painting very quickly. So, of course, the most famous, right? Again, you see aesthetic differences from Monet and Manet and the Impressionists. There's clearer senses of structure and form here, while the same thing, everything is very sloped and wave-like. We get a sense of that impressionistic gleam around these lights, which we'll see in some other paintings of Van Gogh, where things are kind of haloed, and we have that sense of that's how it appears to us, right? But at the same time, what seems to be breathed into this piece is a sense of tranquility, and of calm, of mystery, of individual perspective, of that sort of isolation of a landscape in which one is privileged to see beautiful things that are only for them. All that kind of intensity brought into these swirling blues and these varying shades of yellow, and something that's almost monochromatic. I mean, you look at this painting and it feels like it's maybe 3 colors, right? There's like maybe 4. There's blue, maybe 5. There's like blue and dark, like blackish, and there's yellow, and there's a white, and there's like a gray, right? But these kind of neutral tones and something that's monochromatic, it's an intensity of color that is immediately sensational to the viewer. This piece, also a very famous piece by Van Gogh of his bedroom. It's called The Artist's Bedroom. Here's what he said about it in a letter that he wrote. He said, "I had a new idea in my head, and here's a sketch to it. This time it's just simply my bedroom. Only here, color is to do everything, and giving by its simplification a grander style to things is to be suggestive here of rest or of sleep in general. In a word, to look at the picture ought to rest the brain, or rather the imagination." This is his goal, right? He wanted to create something that would provide tranquility and peace and joy to individual viewers. He describes here the outlines of the piece before he's painted it, right? And then he'll go on to paint it. At the end, he says, "I shall work at it again all day, but you see how simple the conception is. The shading and the cast shadows are suppressed. It is painted in free, flat washes, like the Japanese prints." And the goal here is, again, to create, as quickly as this was made, a spontaneous impression from the viewer as well. This is moving forward off of realism, right? Realism started to say, we don't need subjects that have like grand meanings, right? Remember the burial at Ornans. It's just a bunch of people gathered for a burial. We don't even know who the guy is that's buried, right? This is just a bedroom. It doesn't have, it's not like, some amazing, I mean, we know it's Van Gogh's bedroom, but at the time, nobody knew who Van Gogh was, and it was just some dude's bedroom, right? And he's able here to create something that has an intensity and an aesthetic value to it that continues to be important to us. There's a couple things I like about this piece. Again, you get this sense of like certain kinds of matching colors. There's not overly intense hues throughout this piece, right? But I do love again that repeated use that he does of that kind of halo around the lights and that sense of that kind of hazy glow that these lights in this pool hall might give off. And then finally, these cypresses and this cloudy field. Again, you just get the sense of these cotton ball clouds, something that's windy and wavy and serene, and in many ways a place that we would want to be in. And in this, you can see a big movement away from romanticism that said, "Hey, here's a realistic landscape that you could be in, and you could feel that sublimity of being there," to something that now feels very peaceful and beautiful, right? Something that can be contemplated aesthetically. These are pieces I think that will continue to make sense for us. I think we'll be challenged as we head into modernism in the next couple weeks, looking at some of the ways in which these guys were starting to move away from other forms of art, sort of softly, tripplingly along, and modernism will come in and rewrite a huge swath of how we think about art as a whole. Swath.